What's up, guys? So today I am finally talking about the CRKT Ritual. If I'm quiet for a second, maybe you can hear in the background. Maybe not. It is a super rainy day. So that means stuck inside doing knife testing. And I whipped this guy back out to do a little bit more cut tests on some cardboard and stuff. And I figure it's finally time to talk about it. So here is the box, CRKT, run-of-the-mill box. All right. There it is. Assisted opening paper. Talking about the assisted opening system. You can see that little spring in there. All right, around the pivot. And just an advertisement, probably some other knives. Yeah, well, this one's showing one of their machetes. But yeah, that's pretty much it for paperwork. Sometimes you get a little catalog in there that'll show a bunch of models. But yeah, this is the Ritual. When this thing came out, people were super stoked about it. This is a Alan Foltz design. You guys know I'm a huge fan of the Minimalist. I do like Alan Foltz. I got a chance to meet him at, I believe it was SHOT Show. I think I saw him at Blade Show as well, but I definitely saw him at SHOT Show. That's when I was at the CRKT booth, and Alan Foltz was there. I want to say Ken Onion was there as well. But the biggest takeaway from that was the guy next to me was talking about, you know, because a bunch of people around and stuff, the booth. Guy next to me was talking about one of the neck knives, and I turned and looked at him, and I'm like, man, that guy, he looks just like Steve Austin. Cold Stone Steve Austin. And then I did a double take, and guess what? It was. He very much is a knife guy. I ended up talking to him for a little bit and getting a picture with him. That was really cool. It was very surreal to be standing next to him, and he's just talking about knives. I was like, that's weird. It must be dreaming. But no, he very much likes his CRKTs. But anyway, so here it is, super crazy, funky, giant Persian folder. You see that Persian upswept blade there? Looks like a, you know, a sword or something. This thing is a beast. All right, so super interesting knife. I mean, it's very cool looking. The one thing you have to focus the most on, because it looks like knives that are like extreme like this, and I would consider this to be somewhat of an extreme design, is that they're still very functional knives. Some people might look at this and be like, oh, that's totally useless. And that could not be further from the truth. What you really have to look at is this. Okay, imagine this tip did not even exist. All right, let's say this was just ground off, just like that. Okay, so what you see is what you get. You would have a very usable knife, right? Well, you have a very usable knife plus the extra. All right, so although the tip it comes to a very fine tip that's very pointy, very needle-like. It's even pointier than like a Kershaw leak or something. But it's super useful. The one thing that I found that was its biggest drawback is the fact that the tip is on basically an upward angle for cutting. When I wanted to actually use the tip, like let's say I want to cut into a cardboard box or something, I'm going to use this slit as the cut. So normally you would take a tip of a knife, right, and put it into the box and then come across to cut it. Now, I don't know if you see my extreme angle on my hand here. So obviously you can't do that. It's uncomfortable. So all I did was rotate my wrist and came in backwards. And instead of coming like this, and usually because I'm righty, I'll start on the left side of a package to open it and I'll come to the right, right? Generally speaking. I just went backwards, started on the right, and then used this to slice open to the left. It was really that simple to just overcome the very unique, strange design here. So let's get some specs on this guy. 4.5 inches of Sandvik 12C27 steel. All right, nothing to write home about, but I'm a big fan of all the Sandvik steels. You know, this is a more affordable knife at under $100. These sell pretty consistently between like $80 and $85. So, you know, it's a sub $100 knife, blade steel. Yeah, it could be better, but you know, it is what it is. But I don't have any problem with it. It's actually very easy to touch up and sharpen. But yeah, closed, we have 5.4 inches, all right, open. It is a full 9 inches from that very pointy tip to the bottom of this handle, all right, and it weighs 6.1 ounces. It is very smooth, all right, it's a liner lock here. Lockup is fantastic, by the way. Like a bank vault, which is very nice. There are some, you know, CRKTs and some more affordable brands. I wouldn't call them cheap brands, but some more affordable stuff like some of the really affordable sub $30 Kershaws and stuff. Occasionally, once in a while, you'll see like a little bit of little bit of blade play here and there, but this one just locks up totally fine. No issues at all with that. But it is running on an IKBS system, all right, which is a ball bearing system, so it's super smooth in the pivot area. It is assisted. I kind of wish it wasn't assisted. I kind of get it though. You have a large blade with a unique shape, so there's a dual thumb studs on here as well. So if they made this manual, I can see a lot of people going to, flick this out and not quite getting it as far out. So I understand the route they went with the assisted. I'm not a fan of assisted knives. I used to love them when they first came out. I mean, they were the thing to have. It's like, oh my God, I can have an automatic knife and be legal. But that was many years ago. That was like the mid to late 90s. I don't even want to say mid. I want to say late 90s, early 2000s is when, like, Ken Onion's Speed Safe and Kershaw models really hit the market and it became a thing. And then, of course, everyone copied it. It was the hottest thing back then. It was like, wow, it's like automatic, but it's not. But now, I mean, people don't care. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I prefer manual, but I totally get it. And I have to say, it's very strong. It's very consistent. You don't have to touch there's a flipper on here. You don't touch it all that much. A little bit of pressure inward, and it kicks right out. So I'd say you push it to about here. Once you get here, the spring just takes over. That's it. And of course you could use the thumb studs as well. All right, you don't have to use the flipper. So if you're not into the flipper, if you really wanted to and you had the machine, you could grind the flipper off and just use the thumb studs every time. I don't see it totally being necessary, but some people just don't like flippers, and that's definitely an option. But yeah, I mean, totally fine, locks up great, shoots out great, no issues at all with deployment or anything. The handles are a synthetic. It almost looks like, let me zoom in here, almost looks like a white G10, but it's not. It's some kind of resin, plasticky something or other, but you can see the layers in there, almost like a G10, but it's not. It's just something else, some kind of, plastic, some synthetic. And then our bolster here's are actually stainless steel, even though they look like titanium or something. They are blued. When I got this knife, I got it with this little scuff in there already. So you could see that it's not obviously blued all the way down. So if you do get any kind of scuffs or heavy scratches, they will show that stainless steel through it. I'm not sure the actual coloring process that they use for this, but it's just a blue coating, let's just say. You can see the little standoff matches the bolster with that blue. All right, it's a flow-through design. It is skeletonized on the inside there if it gets just the right angle. You might be able to see that to reduce the weight a little bit because it's so big. It is actually very comfortable in the hand. It's definitely a funky design here. You can see it comes down and hooks out, and that obviously is to accommodate the curved blade because that does hook out a little bit. Obviously, if it was just a straight handle, you'd have that blade poking out the side, so that's a no-go. But it is interesting. It's an interesting design, but it is comfortable. All right, so large finger choil here. Second finger comes down here. All right, and as your hand wraps around, for my XL size hands, it is very comfortable to hold on to. I can choke down just a little bit, and it's still comfortable. None of these peaks or points are actually touching in between my fingers. They obviously land in between the fingers. If you have a grip where your finger lands on the point, it's going to be uncomfortable, whether it's here or here. But if I choke down on it for a little bit more reach, or if I choke up on it, those points still land in between my fingers. So there's no uncomfortable grip for me. Now, as far as reverse grip, which would be weird with this knife, I can tell you that my ring finger lands on this point here. Because yes, with this knife, I did want to stab some cardboard. Totally unnecessary, absolutely no utilitarian reason for that, except for it's fun. So the 13-year-old Jeffrey wanted to just stab some cardboard, and there's nothing wrong with that. You want to stab some cardboard? That's your business, as long as you're using your own knives to do it. So anyway, just to make a note there as far as reverse grip, not as comfortable just because the ring finger does land there, but you could certainly do so if you wanted to. And again, if you were to stab things, keep in mind you have to keep kind of an open angle here. It's a little bit different because that blade hooks up so much. Yeah, I mean, it came sharp. It didn't last sharp all that long. If you did want to carry something like this and EDC it, just maintain your edge. That's it. I would highly recommend stropping. I feel like I've touched upon the subject before, showing how to strop. Maybe I'll do it again in the future. It's really easy. Any knives across the board. If you have knives and you use them and you sharpen your knives and you're not outsourcing them to be resharpened, invest in a strop, a leather strop, just like you see from an old, you know, barbershop or something, you know, the long strip. Now, obviously, there's many different types of strops. There's wood blocks with strops, you know, on top of it and stuff. Whatever kind you prefer, that's fine. But I use an old barber shop style strop. That's a mouthful. A barber shop style strop. Anyway, S-T-R-O-P strop. That's what I'm saying. And it's basically a piece of leather. Sometimes the other side will have like a piece of canvas material. But you have the leather there, and you put some kind of compound, you know, stropping compound, which is basically a paste, or it looks like sometimes like a chunk of sidewalk chalk or something. There's green and white. There's different grits and stuff, and all it is just very fine compound that has grit in it, okay? So it's not really sharpening so much as it is polishing. And when you take an already sharp edge and you polish it, and you're smoothing it out, you're literally making it sharper. But what the idea behind it is for maintenance. So you're doing your cutting throughout the day, and then when you're done cutting, you come in and you strop it, and you never go towards the strop, you always go away, and you're just polishing up. You're fixing that edge that's already sharp. You're kind of straightening it out a little bit, and micro sharpening, I suppose, is the best way to describe that. But it is an easy way to maintain a knife. Any blade steel, it works across the board. It's good stuff. Yeah, I mean, this is not your everyday, you know, practical knife, but it is cool. It's very cool. I do love it. I did carry it a bunch. As far as carry, it is obviously longer. It's a little bit chunkier. I did like this pocket clip style a lot. Very smooth clip because it's landing on this smooth, polished, you know, resin material, whatever the handle material is. And the spring clip has enough spring in it. There was no problem with carrying it. It's very smooth to get in and out of the pocket. It did kind of show, you could see, depending on how this is angled, you can get it to be about that flush, but more times than not, it was kind of like on an angle like this. Okay, so a little bit more sticking up, which was fine because it was just more to grab, to pull it out. But obviously you can see it's only one-sided, all right, so it's not swappable. It is tip up, right side carry. But yeah, I mean, it's a super cool knife. It's definitely a knife that's like a showpiece. You know, you whip this thing out. Doesn't matter if you're a knife person or not. Obviously, they're going to go wide-eyed on you, and they're going to ask you about it. Wow, what kind of knife is that? And you're like, it is a CRKT Ritual. Now, if I zoom in, you can see the markings here. All right, Ritual, Fultz design. 7471 is the model number if you wanted to look it up. But if you type in CRKT Ritual, I'm sure you can find it pretty easily. While I'm in close, you can see those thumb studs. There is a little jimping on back here. I can tell you the jimping is purposeful, although a lot of times using this, especially with larger knives, I don't generally put my thumb up here. I mean, you see where my thumb naturally lands. To put your thumb here, it's fine. It does lock in nicely, and it is very comfortable. But oftentimes, when I'm especially doing harder cutting through cardboard and stuff, I'll do this natural grip where my thumb is wrapped around. All right, but you can put your thumb there, and it is very comfortable. Everything's curved nicely, you know, goes in line with your hand here. But yeah, ignoring the fact that this is such an extreme shape for a blade, it is all belly. It is all belly, which is just a constant curvature, so this thing does want to bite deeply. So when you start down here at the base of the blade and you're cutting into something, as you're cutting, it wants to force itself in there. So it lends itself to be an extremely good slicer, any knife that has a ton of belly like this. But again, if you just imagine the knife shape was like that, you know, it would be considered more practical. But having the extra blade, you're not taking away from what's down here. This is most of my cutting happened around the belly and towards the base of the blade. In fact, most time using this knife, I wasn't even using the tip. I'm cutting into things, I'm cutting into cardboard, but I'm using probably from like here to here. This is most of my cutting action, nowhere near that extreme tip. But I did want to use the tip. Obviously, like I said, I would go backwards and just kind of in reverse as far as what I would normally do for cutting. And that was just simply so it was more comfortable. But yeah, I mean, it's very usable. It is very usable, like I said. I think the price is right because this has a lot of novelty. People won't generally buy this type of knife for $200, $300 and plus. It would definitely make the market a lot smaller. But you know, CRKT has been fantastic at doing two things. Number one, being innovative, constantly having crazy, cool, fun designs. And number two, being affordable. That's their thing. They've had a couple expensive knives over the years. Yeah, just one. No, since their introduction into the knife world, they've been affordable and they've been fun. And that's why I've always loved the company. And they had some awesome influence from some very cool makers. So yeah, that's about it for the Ritual. I'm not sure how available these still are, but if you get a chance to get one, I think it's a cool addition to a collection. It's definitely you know, a showpiece, something to talk about, but it is definitely a functional knife. It's very fun, very simple. Again, you know, I'm not super into or prefer a assisted knife these days compared to a manual knife or just a full auto. But I have to say it's well done for what it is. The action is very, very smooth. Again, having the IKBS system in here and being assisted, it's hard to explain just how smooth and easy that is to open. But yeah, just a cool little addition. This is going to stay in my collection more than likely, unless someone really wanted to trade and had the right thing. That's usually how it works. I have my knives I want to keep forever, and then someone's like, no, I want that. And I'm like, well, you know, what are you offering? And they say, I'm offering this. And I say, it's yours. That's cool. I can live with it. But I like to keep this in with my biggins. I have my, you know, my set of cold steel massive folders, as well as a couple other different brands. I made some big old knives, and I like to put that into that collection because it's just a big old biggin, you know? It's unique, cool, large folding knife. But anyway, that is it for now. That is the CRKT Ritual. Let me know if you have one down in the comment section, what you think of it. But I think it's pretty cool. It's different. You guys know I love stuff that's different. But sometimes, you know, I just like the normal knives as well. So that's all. Hope you guys have a fantastic day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow with a brand new video. Take care.